everybody, and welcome to MangaPod. Woo! We are a weekly podcast in which we all get together after we read all or parts of a manga/mango, and then we get together and discuss it with lots of spoilers, love, and friendship. I said that out of order, so
I was gonna say, changing it up. Oh my
gosh! Did I catch you guys off guard? Because I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to say it out of order. But I am Erin of HappiLeeErin, your host, and with me are two of my three lovely co-hosts, as well as a very special guest. Once again, Yokurama is still on hiatus with family stuff, but we're excited to be here and talk to you guys about 20th Century Boys. So if you guys wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dodger, and I am real excited to talk about 20th Century Boys. I think that it's going to be super cool. So,
Elusive.
Yeah, what's up? My name's Lewis. I'm from Sitting by the Window Anime Reviews, and I'm really tired and also excited to talk about 20th Century Boys. Much hype, yeah. Bam.
Mr. BakaShift.
And I am also very excited to be talking about 20th Century Boys. I'm Alan, also known as BakaShift. I am primarily an anime reviewer who makes other things here and there. And I also co-host a live streamy thing called Oko Anime Club, which is like this, very similar, but for anime. So there you go.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's awesome. Y'all should definitely check it out. So thank you for being here tonight with us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, especially
it is a pleasure.
Especially it being so late there for you.
Yeah.
Staying up.
Very apologize if I'm dead for a bit. It's 3 a.m. I had a nap, so I should be good.
I think we're all going to be like a little sleepy, so we need to rely on one another to hype. Okay. To hype real hard.
One of us can just randomly yell, "Friend!" in the middle of this.
Hype!
Hype!
Everybody!
Friend!
Oh,
okay.
Hype. I'm hyped. All right. Good. Got it.
So, if you have never joined us for a manga pod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description of the manga that we read. This week it was 20th Century Boys, chapters 1 through 32, volumes 1 through 3. That description is aka a summary, and it will be read by our lovely guest, Alan. And then after he finishes reading that, we will give you spoiler-free recommendations, whether we believe that you should spend time going to read this manga or not if you have not checked it out already. And then after we do that, we will dive into the spoiler section. We ask everybody in chat and in YouTube comments to please, I guess YouTube comments won't, YouTube chat, but not YouTube comments, probably won't matter that much. But to keep all spoilers for anything past chapter 32 out of everywhere. You will be timed out and then banned for spoilers. We take them very seriously. We even came up with a term for people who spoil, and it's called rotten bacon butts. So please do not
you don't want to be
a rotten bacon butt at all. Also, please wait to talk about any sort of spoilers until after we've given our spoiler countdown and dismissed all of those who do not want to be spoiled. So we ask that you respect that, please. It's going to be awesome and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do our spoiler-free description.
Okie smokies. Humanity, having faced extinction at the end of the 20th century, would not have entered the new millennium if it weren't for them. In 1969, during their youth, they created a symbol. In 1997, as the coming disaster slowly starts to unfold, that symbol returns. This is the story of a group of boys who tried to save the world.
Oh, boom, boom, boom. Yes, perfect. That was beautiful. That was very well done.
I think that right there woke me up.
You're like, I'm done. I'm good, guys. I don't need anyone to yell at me. I'm good. Awesome. Let's give our spoiler-free recommendations. Would anybody like to go first? If not, I can go first. I recommend this manga. I was caught off guard and pleasantly surprised by how into it I got and how much I was really enjoying it. To when we stopped reading at chapter 32, I was like, what? And it's an incredibly fascinating mystery with sci-fi elements to it where if you're somebody who doesn't like sci-fi, this is one you should still check out because the sci-fi elements are very important, but they're not the front of the story. If you like stories that are character driven, you're definitely going to want to check this one out. And it's written by the same guy who did Monster, so it has, if you're a fan of Monster, you definitely also need to check it out. I think it's great. It's really well written. It's an exciting mystery, and you don't see that too often in manga. So I recommend it.
Okay, I'll go next.
Yeah.
If that's cool.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a really, really massive fan of Monster. Like, ever since I watched it, it's been one of my favorite series of all time. And Urasawa's brand of mystery and how he presents it is kind of something completely unlike how anyone else does it, at least in my experience. Because it's not a case of like there are these massive holes that you yourself need to fill in. Very much a lot of it is stuff that is clear as day that you know, but it's a case of finding how the characters get there is just such an incredible journey. And this, even though I was basically expecting something a lot like Monster, it still completely has so far blown me away in terms of the direction it's going. It's absolutely incredible so far. As with Erin, like when I got to chapter 32, I was not the happiest bunny because I was like, no, I don't want to get any further than this. And yeah, I would recommend this to anyone, no matter what you're into, because even like Monster and Urasawa's work in general has always been heavily acclaimed by anyone, but it's not something that I think has a high barrier of entry, because whilst it is very intelligently written, it's not hard to understand or anything like that. So no matter what you're into, you should be able to get a lot out of this thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next.
Go for it.
No, Dodger, you seem motivated. Go ahead.
No. Hype! Hype, Lou!
Hype!
Do
Hype!
it! Hype! Do it!
Okay.
Friend,
All right.
friend.
I went into this with relatively high expectations as Alan, or very similar to Alan. I'm a big fan of Monster. I actually have been collecting the perfect editions of the manga reprint. So coming into this one, I had very high expectations of the level of quality as I was expecting, and I got something different, but equally as good as I would say. Like, no, I was expecting something a little bit darker, a little bit more gritty.
Like peaced out. Right as you said. What?
No, it's fantastic read. Fantastic read. I'll just leave it at that. It was great.
Awesome. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Dodger just disappeared after you said something, and it seemed like she like turned off her camera.
I thought she got mad at me.
I
for
know.
a second.
I was like,
what did I say?
like,
it's good.
well.
Dodger, I swear, come back, please.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yes.
Okay,
you're
good.
back. Thank you, Dodger.
That was just
Really
such
sorry.
funny timing. I was like, what?
I think it cut out for me really early.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear any of Lou's feelings on it at all.
Really?
Oh, I was talking
Lou
shit
said
about it the
something,
whole
Lou, like,
time. I hated
finished
it.
Yeah, he can't stand it.
He
thinks
finished the
it's worst thing
point,
ever.
and then you disappeared, and we're like, oh.
I cannot be on this podcast with you, Lou.
He legitimately described it as the next Sekai Daiichi ban.
Yeah.
No, not that bad. No.
No, but I loved it. So yeah. Number 2 favorite manga now. I said it.
Ooh.
Big feels. I did not know anything about this manga really before I went into it. And it was a pleasant surprise. I had no feelings, positive or negative, right? But I do really love Monster, and the second I started reading it, I was like, oh, same person. Like there's immediate similarities, not just in art but in tone, that I really, really loved. So yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a really intriguing story, and a lot of things tie in right off the bat where you're just like, oh, like you're invested so early on. It's really, really cool. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so we all definitely recommend it. And seeing it as it is a mystery manga, it is one you do not want to be spoiled on. So please, if you have even the tiniest little slightest bit of interest in it, you should take your leave now and go and read the manga, and then you can come back and watch the VOD of this on my channel, youtube.com/HappiLeeErin. It goes up immediately after we finish the show. So you should definitely go and check it out, because we do not want to... It's one of those that you just don't want to be spoiled on, because it takes out part of the fun of reading it. So, having said that, let's jump into spoiler section. 5, 4,
4,
3,
3, 2, 1.
Friend is God.
God is God. No, God is God.
Oh, wait, there is a character
There
named
is a
God.
character
Oh,
named God.
shit.
His name is. Yes, God is God.
I think Yanbo and Mabo are God. Personally.
Excuse me,
Giant
Kana.
oppressive bully God.
Kana is God. Thank you.
Obviously.
Oops.
Donkey is God.
Donkey. Aww.
Oh,
He's a good God.
I had donkey
Okay,
feels.
so a lot of you we touched on when you were talking about our spoiler-free recommendations or expectations going into this. If you wanted to add any more, then go ahead. I wanted to say that going into this, like Dodger, I had no idea really what it was going to be. Like, I didn't know anything about the summary. I didn't know who had written it. I just knew the title and that a lot of people liked it.
Here.
And so I went into reading it, and like right before I read it, I looked at like the Mal page and saw that it was written by the same person as Monster, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be good. But I didn't read the description, and so going into it, I knew it was a mystery science fiction, and I expected way more aliens and like just stuff like that. And so as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is not what I was thinking it was gonna be at all. But I ended up, and so like kind of caught me off guard at the start, but I ended up really enjoying how character driven it was. I think that was just really, like, despite the fact that it caught me off guard, it was so intriguing with the characters, the way it built it up. Yeah, and I didn't know what the characters were gonna be doing, so when they introduced like Kenji, I was like, is he a throwaway character? Like,
He seems too normal.
He seems like one of those characters that just gets introduced to like move like one part of the plot along, and then he kept coming back. I was like, maybe he's important. Okay, I get it. It's about him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for him to die.
Right? I thought he was gonna be like one of those one-off characters you see that he like moves, does something, and then he gets killed, and then like starts the mystery. I've been watching a lot of Criminal Minds, so
Yeah, that's right. I came over and you were like, I'm watching Criminal Minds. I've been watching it all day. I was like, oh no. Yeah, I didn't even know what genre this was. So like when I first started reading it, I found out the author and I was like, oh, I really loved Monster, so this is probably going to be good. But it almost felt, at first it kind of felt like an Arakawa FMA to Silver Spoon sort of thing, where I was like, is this slice of life?
yeah.
What am I reading? And then suddenly it took like that turn where I was like, okay, now it feels more like what you would expect from this author.
Yeah.
But
Is this
I had no idea what it was gonna be.
It's like,
It
this
was
is gonna be a nice, sweet, like coming of age story. Like,
yeah,
I guess
it's
it's
about a guy and his friends when they were like little, just like, you know, accepting adulthood. You know, like maybe.
I just
See,
think like
for me-
there you go.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say like the first sort of thing that really threw me at the start was how in like the first few pages of the first chapter it spoils the ending. It's like, yeah, he succeeds.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, okay, so there's
Yeah.
none of that. We don't need to worry about any of that, which is awesome because like Urasawa's always been great at making something known and then sort of working towards it.
But you're still so invested in seeing how it unravels. Yeah.
Because like in Monster, you always knew that Johan was the villain. It was just a case of sort of getting to that point. And with here, it's kind of fairly early on. Sort of you find out who Friend is supposedly meant to be, though it could easily change because it changed within these first three volumes.
It changed like 3 times.
Yeah.
We read.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
like so much happened in the 32 chapters that we read that it blows my mind that there's another like 200 chapters.
Because I didn't realize how long it was, so I got to the end of the what we'd read, and I'd be like, man, that's a good chunk of stuff, and we already know where it's ending. So where's it going from here? There's another freaking like 200 odd chapters.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I was thinking maybe the actual sort of part of the story that we know concludes, maybe that finishes like halfway through.
Maybe this is almost like a prologue. Or,
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause-
yeah.
I could see like the sort of turn of the century sort of happening like maybe halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, and then having some sort of bit at the end, like after another time skip or something.
Yeah.
I mean, and there is a sequel to the manga after this, so there's even more to this story.
What?
So
It's like
Yeah.
the last 2 volumes are in a sequel or something like that.
Weird.
It's weird. Yeah. Though I'm interested, seeing the time lapse, we usually go into theories way later in the show, but I'm going to throw one out right now. because screw consistency. I feel like there is going to definitely be a time skip at some point, and Kana is going to grow up, and she's going to do some shit.
Dude, I want to see Kana grow up so bad because she's obviously like super tuned into whatever's going on as a baby, and I'm just like,
no spoilers in chat if that actually happens.
Yeah, no spoilers. No spoilers.
Yep. Please,
if you spoil,
this is just a theory. Do not confirm nor deny.
Yeah,
just throw it out there. But yeah, Lou, what were you gonna say earlier?
No, I was gonna draw comparisons to the early portion of the manga to Stand By Me, Stephen King, Stand By Me. It had a very similar tone where it was a very slice of life feel, going into the darker aspects of life, with the children in that one finding a dead body. So
yeah.
That's kind of what I was getting, or the expectations or the understanding that I had set for myself within the first couple of chapters, and that got completely turned on its fucking head.
You're just like, nope. Yeah, it's like, that's something like, you're talking about his writing style. He does present everything, despite like how intelligently he is. He presents stuff like facts very openly. And so there's not like, the mystery just lies in seeing how people get to certain points and stuff like that.
It's because he's so incredibly concise and very selective about the information he gives you, to the point where there are so many different sort of layers and so much depth to the story, but it's presented so well that you just can't get lost. Because like so many, there are other works of fiction that do the whole kind of like split timeline thing, and it just like feels like a convoluted mess. But with how it's done here, it's all completely relevant. And it's a case of like every single thing that happens in this sort of childhood sequences is then matched directly to something that's happening in the now. And it takes this really sort of down to earth feeling of like, here's these kids, here's these dreams, he wants to be a musician. Oh, he wakes up, he works in a shop. Oh dear, it's real life.
Yeah, I loved that even though I have so many questions, I don't feel lost at all. And I never have felt lost. I felt like I'm exactly where he wants me to be in the story, you know?
Yeah, and like any questions that I have is all because he's leading me towards those questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. There's none of that, like, confusing throwing in words or time skips or plots that, like, just to make the story more confusing or mysterious. There's no, like, real, like, they're diversions from where you're trying to go with it. And so there's nothing that's distracting you from what the story he's actually trying to tell, which is nice, because I'm understanding everything that's happening while at the same time being like, I don't know what's going to happen. Which is a hell of a really good mystery writer, I think. For sure. Somebody in chat is confused about our blank is God joke. No, what we're saying is blank is God is a MangaPod running MangaPod joke. Every single episode, somebody else in the manga that we have read is God. That week.
And we can't even, you know what sucks is we can't even explain where it came from without spoiling another
manga. Like a huge manga. Like a huge plot detail of a certain manga. And so, when we go friend is God or God is God, then it's a MangaPod joke.
Yeah.
Not everyone is actually God. So
God might
be.
Except this time. God is God.
Except
this time.
Except for God.
Name, if anything.
There's been a few where it has actually been God. But,
yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So we can't ever rule it out. But yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, I agree with like having all of the, whenever you get in a manga where the mangaka decides to do tons of different timelines, like jumping back and forth, figuring out the pacing of how to do that so it's not, one, not overly jarring, and two, not convoluted, and like it makes sense for what we're seeing at certain times. It's not just, he's not just throwing us information to make the story seem cooler. He's like throwing it to us because, okay, this is what you need right now, and you're gonna want to know more about it. So keep reading, which is neat.
Yeah. It's just like what you need to know is woven in with such class, because it's not to the point of like, okay, it's time for an info dump, get your brain ready. It's a case of everything you need, as you say. It's given to you as you need it. to the point where as soon as you're like, okay, I really need this information now, you get that information, and then you can start wandering around what's going to happen next, with like these subtle hints to other things going forward.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like he's overcompensating for other stuff. Like, he has full confidence in his writing to be able to say, like, this is what I'm doing now, like, this is the story I'm telling, you're going to want to listen to it, and these are the characters I'm crafting.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, there was so much in what we read that it was like, I felt like because at the start, that was another thing. You feel like the mystery the story is telling is one thing, and it leads you, and then you realize, oh, wait, this isn't the mystery we're figuring out. We're actually figuring out this mystery, or is it this mystery? So, like, the first one, you're like, oh, it's going to be a manga about trying to figure out who Friend is, like, learning who Friend is. And then you find out who Friend is pretty early on, and so you're like, wait, then what's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be about, like, the future, how they stop the future, bad stuff from happening. It's like, oh, wait, or is it about him learning about remembering the past? It was just like, this just keeps going. Like, all the mysteries. There's so many different mysteries.
Yeah. I just loved how swiftly they kicked off the, like, police inspector side of investigation, because that was like a massive deal in Monster and also in stuff like Paranoia Agent or whatever, whereas case of like for a good chunk of the story you've got your main character, you've got your villain, but then you've also got this sort of police faction. And with here we had this sort of inspector subplot, and he was getting onto it, he was figuring things out, and then as soon as he'd figure them out he's dead, and then that side of the story's gone. It's just like, no, we don't have that here.
Sad.
I know. When he's going to his grant.
When he's gonna go to his grant. Oh my god, I was so sad. I was like, no.
I was like,
especially they had to throw in the whole
story.
I'll only forgive you if you're no more than an hour late.
Yeah. Like, oh my god.
They just had to add that one detail, like, well,
you're a
he's
sour,
gonna be
you
more than an hour
bastard.
late.
Yeah, I was like, you jerk, you didn't need to do that to us.
In those situations, I always imagine what like would have happened with the people who were waiting for that person.
Oh yeah.
How they would have. Oh god, I just think about things like, oh, they would have been so angry with him, and then found out he was actually dead, and then they would have been so upset, and like, oh god,
there would have been so many emotions happening in that moment.
I think he probably just felt like he had to kill them off, because he's like, right, I cannot make an inspector as good as Lunge again. So let's just kill these guys off and roll with it.
Yeah, I was surprised by how quickly he got killed off, because I actually because he's in the very start of the manga, and then he's gone for quite a few chapters, and then he gets brought back, and you're like, oh, okay, well, he's gonna have more of an importance now, and then you're just like, wait, he died. What?
It's just because it's such a typical and logical thing to have in a mystery story. Like, you've got the police, they're figuring things out, but so quickly here you're presented to the idea that Friend and his faction are controlling the police.
Yeah.
And the guy that our matey who died was talking to was a member of the organization. And it's just like, okay, you can't rely on that. It is literally a case of, as it is presented in the stories they wrote as children, it's good versus evil with the
It's been interesting to me though too, because I don't know whether or not Friend is open with his community about the fact that they're like actively murdering people.
Yeah.
Like at first it seemed just like he was willing to let them believe that, you know, these people were dying because they were against the cause, right?
Yeah.
Like they were just dying, and that was like a sign of, you know, the power of their group, and et cetera, et cetera. But then when what's the main guy's name?
Kenji.
When Kenji's like up on the stage being like, no, you guys, there's some crazy shit going on, and then Friend just like shows up behind him and is like, yeah, tell them about all the terrible things I did. Yeah, what's gonna happen next? What am I gonna do next? And I was like, what? Like, do you have no problem with them knowing that you've done these things? Like, it was interesting.
Is it like at that point, or is it that he used to, but then he's at the point now where he has such a following that anything he does is seen as the right way? Like, it's seen, like, even murder is seen as purification.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
And I like how Kenji already played into his plans. Like, he identified him to his people as the prophet.
Yeah. That was crazy.
That was so cool when that dude like came and found him and was like, "Are you the prophet?" And I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, that was another twist that I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then they threw in the whole like
So
he
cool
knows.
though. It made so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. The foreshadowing is awesome. Like there's so many times where you get those little twists, especially in mysteries, where you look back and you're like, that made no sense. Like I don't understand. But with all of his, it's like any sort of twist that happens, you look back and you're like, oh, the groundwork was slowly being built this entire time. Like it doesn't feel like it came out of left field. Like it makes sense.
I think my favorite example of that, and probably the biggest reason why I was so annoyed that I couldn't carry on reading, was at the end of the end of chapter 32, where Shogun or whatever his name is reading manga, and he sees the hand to direct which direction you read, and it's like, that's the hand from the logo. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they introduced it. That was the sucky thing. It's like we introduce a new character who's all badass, and then it's like, okay, we're done.
I know. And then my mind was racing. I was like, oh my god. So he's probably one of the kids. So which kid is he? And
Well,
I was
I'm
like,
assuming. Like, I thought it was heavily hinted Shogun was the guy who was sort of writing all the evil stuff. I forgot what the kid's name was, but the one was saying no, we need to have bad.
Oka or something like that.
I was assuming it was him because he's who was
That's who I think
initially who they hinted at being friend, but then friend is now this masked kid.
So see, that's the thing though, is I'm like, but maybe he's the mask kid, because. Yeah. Like in that last chapter, he's talking about how he never had any friends back home and how like the only people that he cares about are in like this place he's in now. And I was like, oh my god, what if they're pinning all this friend shit on Mask Kid, but Mask Kid is a totally different guy who's like moved on and is doing other shit across the world. I was like, oh god, he could be anybody.
That's true. It's like, wait, which of the friends is he? Oh man, I loved seeing, speaking of like the group, I loved seeing the group come back together and like dig up the box.
Yeah.
That was really
some crazy drunken shenanigans.
I know, they're just like, the guy's like, I'm digging this, I'm proving y'all wrong, I'm digging up the stupid box. I was like, what? I loved seeing that.
So funny.
Yeah, it was so funny. Seeing the their dynamic and just thinking of the child like innocence and then comparing it to like adulthood. That's another thing. Like there's not that, I mean, with manga, you hear this all the time, but manga nowadays is like such an anime is all about high school. Like we very rarely get a well-written manga that features adults. And so having one that is like that has both the childhood and the adulthood and how that compares to each other, and having both of them be written so incredibly well with the tone that fits both of them is another testament to just how great the writing is. Because whenever you're in the child timeline, you feel like everything that's being done and said is something that's like a child's point of view, what a child would do. When you're in the adulthood, those same characters don't feel like different people, but you can definitely see how they've grown and how the years have changed them and their thought process, which is just amazing. Like really cool to see that timeline, because if you have two timelines running like that close to each other in a story, it's going to be really easy to pick out, be like, that character just, that they're like jump to adulthood made absolutely no sense.
It's because they're running so closely in tandem with everything that's happening being completely relevant. It's so much better than in some stories where it's like where the childhood is relevant, so they go to flashbacks and take that side. Like something like Space Brothers does that actually really well. But with here, it's a case of everything is so relevant that it's kind of a 50-50, as opposed to here is their current time, and then they just flash back to certain sort of relevant bits and pieces here and there. And often when that happens, they'll be pulling out sort of random pieces of their past, whereas this, it's like a solid, consistent chunk of it, because everything that happened there is the reason that everything is happening now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of times consistent flashbacks like this are used more to develop character.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really need that because all of the characters as adults feel like they have so much history, like they're written so well. So it winds up helping you to really just focus on the parallels that are happening, like Alan was saying. It's so good.
One thing I really appreciated about all the flashbacks is what they represented for Kenji, in that it's Kenji returning to who he should have been as a person and the differences of who he became as an adult and how he became that more tame and responsible person, especially with that one flashback with his sister.
Yeah.
His sister was selfish for that one time and he feels like he owed it to her. So, I don't know. For me, it's just showing what Kenji is supposed to be or was supposed to have been at the emergence of Friend and his followers. I don't know. That I feel like I'm already comfortable with Kenji making that change in who he is as a character.
Yeah.
Dude, that whole thing with the like King Mart representative
Yes.
being like, you either get rid of the baby or you get rid of us. I was like,
That
that's
guy's
so
a dick.
fucked up.
Yeah.
No. What?
What a
It's so
horrible
true though. Like
man.
when you deal with higher up people like that in retail, they're such assholes.
Oh, they're
and that would totally happen.
Yeah. They don't care. They don't see like the lower man
They
as
just
a
they just look at
person.
numbers.
Yeah,
They look at numbers.
all about
and
the
nothing
numbers.
else.
It's like, oh, you're not making enough money. You need to cut people so we can save money. But you need to make sure they work
the
the
baby's
same amount of
weirding
hours.
people out. Just get rid of the baby. What? That's not how that works.
Let's,
Surprised the King Mark guy didn't try and have the baby start working.
I know.
Like,
he's
no,
like-
he
he's
can
like,
he can restock the shelves.
Put the
Oh,
baby
I
to
can
work.
walk now? Sick.
Perfect.
We're almost there.
Let's talk about Kenji. Let's jump into characters. Let's start with Kenji. We've kind of like touched on him bits and pieces. What are your guys' feelings about him as a character from like how we first saw him and then up to where we finished seeing him?
I wanted him
wasn't-
to be a rock star.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't really sold on adult Kenji until he had his little jam session on the guitar.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, all right, this guy is going to be a badass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Young Kenji was awesome from the go, though.
I loved young Kenji.
Yeah, I like how well you can tell he started off as like a super troublemaker, and as an
Yeah.
adult is just like, I have to be responsible. I don't have a choice, you know?
Yeah. He's like reinventing himself. later
Yeah.
on as an adult. Yeah.
I just
But in a way that
enjoyed.
doesn't satisfy him at all.
I just enjoyed the contrast of his character because I thought because he gets more light than the rest of them, it's the contrast between how he is as an adult and how he was as a child is much more apparent with him, because like as a child of his kind of like delusions of being a hero and justice and everything, and then kind of to an adult where he's just kind of living this really mundane and uninteresting life where his like one dream that he had is kind of disappeared because of events that happened. It was kind of like crushing in that regard, but also so, as I mentioned this earlier, it was just so down to earth and realistic.
Yeah.
His mom, interesting lady. Like, I was just thinking
Yeah.
about her. I was like, she's seen some stuff. She's
Yeah,
gone
I
through
feel
some
like
things.
she's as much as she frustrates me, I feel like she is a realistic person.
Yeah.
You know, just like
Yeah.
somebody who's so frustrated with everything that all they really like complaining is almost a habit at this point.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know?
She's just like,
I mean,
woe is me my whole life ever since.
who wouldn't be
Yeah.
salty when a freaking alcohol shop gets changed into a supermarket? though?
I
Let's be
know.
real.
God,
Like,
if only
it
they had
makes
listened to
sense.
me and left it a liquor store. Ugh,
It's never
everything would have been
I
different.
just thought like in an alternate world where it stayed as as an alcohol place, and there's still just a baby on his back.
So that's the baby. Oh, let's talk about one of my favorite character, Donkey. I love.
Donkey,
I had so many
donkey
feels.
I had
Him.
so many anybody who has not read this manga yet,
It's
take that for what you will. But yeah, so many donkey feels, because that was another thing that came out of like left field. It was like donkey suicide. It's like, oh, who's donkey? Like, I don't really. He died. Am I supposed to be sad? And then they gave us his whole background and everything, and they did it really tastefully and well. And I was like, I care about Donkey so much.
Yeah.
I just really liked his design and who he
with
was.
the snot.
Yeah, absolutely. With his snot rag. And how he had to use that to save was it Kenji and I forget who
was it Yoshitsuna? One of the other guys.
Like
I don't
that.
remember what the other
Yoshisuka, maybe?
Yeah. And how like fast he was. And then they have that scene later on when Kenji is goes to the school and has to run on a baseball field. He's like, my friend told me it's faster to run barefoot. And then he runs. And you're like, ah!
Yeah, and then he's like, I'm sorry, Donkey. I'll never be as fast as you. It's like, Donkey.
But what makes his character, one thing that made Donkey's character interesting is that you see him come up from this obviously impoverished background to become a teacher and obviously doing really well for himself. I don't know, it's just something about that contrast between who he ended up becoming versus just being the kid with snot running down his nose. That, I don't know, I just really like that about his character. Like, I feel like it illustrates how much of a change he made and how much he dedicated to himself. And I hope we get more of him in flashbacks into seeing how he grew up and how those connections were being made and ultimately how he met his end. Which, I mean, we were given a glimpse of, but we haven't really seen like how he discovered the whole connections with Friend.
Yeah, because we don't know how long he was on that train for, like how long he was like actively finding things out.
Yeah.
And with you mentioning this sort of brief period where when they do show when he dies, that kind of came out of the blue for me because I was like, okay, I thought we were done with Donkey because they sort of did here's that he died. And then here's what he was like as a youngster, and it's sort of like we're doing the whole hinting of like, okay, yeah, he probably didn't kill himself, and it's like, oh yeah, here's Donkey back again. Here's what he was doing. It's like, oh no, Donkey.
It's like, Donkey,
I miss you. And when he's just like, I was going to your shop and looking at you, and I never came in because you were so busy.
It's like, Donkey.
I know.
Listen, you're always welcome here, Donkey.
Yeah, I feel like the friend that I care about the least is the frog friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, he's like the first one that you meet at the beginning because he's like, oh yeah, I bagged myself a lady, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I was like, what the shit?
I love how self-aware he is of himself, though, where he's like, ribbit, ribbit.
Yep.
Why?
I love that guy.
You got frog kid, you got Donkey. I don't understand.
It's what I adored about him is because I was just like, you're here, you're one of the friends, but we just know you're not going to do anything important.
Yeah.
You're just there being the frog man.
He's just there to be the frog friend. The frog friend. What if he's really Friend?
Ah!
Can you imagine? That would be one of those plot twists where I'm like, no, damn it, Urasawa, that's not cool.
Not.
Wrong.
That's not interesting. I didn't expect it, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Feel disappointed and let down, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
No, but I think the reason why I think Frog Friend was included was to drive home the point that, yeah, Kenji hasn't got on with his life. He's one of the only people in his group of friends that hasn't been married. So it's just illustrating that he's still lacking that little bit of maturity, or at least what is perceived as maturity. So maybe it's his connection to his youth, the fact that he's trying to re-embrace who he was, that is ultimately what comes out from that. It's like that's planting the seed for, okay, Kenji is going to embrace his childhood to resolve whatever conflict is coming forward.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, which is probably the case.
I don't think you can read too deep into the story. I feel like there's plenty of layers to go for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like also that's why, shoot, is her name Toriko?
The
Which
female
one?
friend?
The female friend.
Yukiji.
Yeah, the world's strongest woman.
Yeah.
It's totally wrong.
She's chunky.
You were in, like, the same country.
I put a K in there.
Yeah, you see?
So, Yukiji definitely felt like this really cool vehicle to remind him how brave he used to be.
Yeah.
You know? Because she's like, she's that character where they really drove home that she hasn't changed that much.
Yeah.
You know, she's like continued to be this really headstrong, like powerful girl that people kind of misunderstand sometimes. And she winds up back in Kenji's life and is just like, what happened to you, man? Like, you used to be so down to like fight for what you believed in, and now look at you. You know, like, I liked that she was there to be that voice for him.
And she's that catalyst for him, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. I'm just like, my brain is going like everywhere as everyone's talking.
Should we talk about greasy long-haired Bendy Spoon Man?
Yes, I was gonna bring him up. Yes, that's what I was gonna bring up next. Hit it. Do you have something to say, sir?
He was like friend's secretary.
Yeah.
And he was just there.
He's just there to be like really ominous with like turn panels. He's just there to be like, yes.
Well, I didn't really. One thing that I didn't quite get was that whoever friend was supposed to have been as a child was like bending spoons or whatever.
Yeah.
As a child, but he was the one bending spoons in the show.
Maybe it's a communicable skill.
Did he teach him?
Yeah, I feel like
I think that's the case, that it's tied to the symbol, and that's where friend is getting his power.
That, or there's something with like telekinesis and stuff going on in some kids. That's why, like, I'll be interested to see Kana's like ability thing, like, because she seems to like, I feel like there's gonna be something where she has some psychic ability or something that happens. Like, I feel like it's a psychic.
It's gotta be, right?
Because
like,
she's walking so early. She's so incredibly self. She just has all these like signs without being like a baby who levitates people. Like, it's not.
When Kenji's like in trouble, she like stares out the window all creepy and shit like that.
And
maybe
like,
she'll learn to float like her daddy.
Yeah, and he can float.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that whole thing.
I was like, expecting
on the baby daddy. I was like, no.
Like what?
You're gonna kill Kana's baby daddy. It's like,
no.
He wears mask. She wasn't born with a mask. She can't be his daughter.
Exactly.
I like this universe where Mask Kid was just a kid whose face looks like a mask. He never actually wore one.
Well, maybe the baby is actually wearing a mask, and then eventually she pulls it away, and it's just Nick Cage under there.
Oh god, best baby.
Or it's like the actual mask, like friend mask that he has, pulls it off, and it's his same face.
It's just like, how many layers does
friend,
this go?
Friend is actually Kana. That's my guess. But yeah, Creepy Spoon Man was like, he's a very typical character you see in stories that have cult leaders that need like followers and stuff like that. You have that weird dude who is just as like real shady and schemy and gross.
Because you don't really know anything about him other than that, like, he's a bit of a weirdo and he's there, but probably has deeper relevance and was potentially like one of the kids or something.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely Friend's right-hand man. He's got a lot more to him than pretty much everyone else in the cult. Yeah,
so, like, he has to have some connection with Friend where Friend trusts him enough for that.
Yeah.
It was weird that he was, like... I wonder if there's... Excuse me. If there's something where somebody can see, like, the future. A Friend has, like, some kind of, like, a prophecy thing. But with the airport stuff, like, why was greasy-haired Spoon Man, like, at the wrong airport because he knew Kenji was going to come there because Friend knew that he was going to come there, or was he just there because he happened to be there? Like, I'm
assuming he was under strict instructions.
Yeah.
Like, everything he did, I'm assuming, is just kind of under Friend's hand.
Yeah, it might not even be a prophecy thing. It might just be Friend being like, I'm always right. He might be on Akashi God shit. Yeah.
Or maybe it was more along the lines because they had to get the that particular drug that they're using to commit those murders to get it into Tokyo. So, and the other airport was going to blow up, so that was like the only option.
Oh,
but I think what he had on him probably wasn't actually drugs, because he was just there as a diversion. Because like he didn't need to do anything when he was there, because they did do the whole thing of it's just flour,
right.
but that's obviously you can't trust that because the people working there could just say that it is because they're all members of the cult anyway.
Yeah.
But he could have had anything on him, and it could have just been there to cause a diversion. Though that probably isn't true because it did set off the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it must have been drugs because the dog was like, meh.
Yeah. And it's
Something's weird.
It's becoming a thing where another part of the mystery is like who's in the cult and who's not. Like who can you trust? It adds that element of
it's one of those
suspicion.
fucking stories where they're like, you can't even trust the police because we've got people in the police. In fact, we've got people all over the world. And I'm like, come on.
It's like, not everybody's in this stupid cult. Are they now? Yep.
Everything's escalating, man.
I think one thing that we do need to get some more exposition on later on is sort of like Friends' methods of getting people to join, because so far we just see blind faith. But I think with how sort of with how good Urasawa is at filling in the blanks, I just want to know how people get sucked into it, or like what techniques he uses, because he straight up convinces children to kill people. Like he gets that kid to run and stab crazy other cult leader guy. And it's just like that'll take some convincing. So I guess I want to see a bit more behind the hood.
I wonder if it's alluding to anything. If it's like an illusion.
It's all fake. And then Kenji woke up and it was all a dream. And then I go, damn it.
He still has a convenience store that is not on fire.
Yeah.
He basically just wakes up like in a room full of cocaine and groupies after he has succeeded.
Recovering, like a relapsing drug addict.
No. He succeeded as a rock star.
Oh,
he just wakes up, he's just like, oh god, I'm sure glad I became a rock star.
Maybe he fell into a coma, and this whole story is actually about like different parts of his brain joining together to wake him back up.
And how
the dreamer in him is fighting against it. He doesn't want to wake up.
And the end of the story is they're going to destroy the Tokyo with a Gundam. It's like, this is the best.
It's like, I want to stay in this world. I don't want to wake up.
Why would I ever want to wake up from this?
I get a laser gun.
Laser gun.
Yeah, that was super weird too.
The thing is, I'm assuming it's just like a chunk of metal made to look like it, but supposedly it's going to be important.
Yeah.
God was like, take
God
this, man.
So.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things that like, the helpless like protagonist has this one thing, random item that is going to save the world, divert all the lasers and germs and stuff like that.
Yep. It just kind of combines into his arm into this massive cannon, like freaking Vash the Stampede at the end of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Into it.
Let's talk about God.
Yeah. That you know that's a loaded suggestion, Aaron.
Tell me your feelings on God, guys. Welcome to
God.
God Pod.
I love that every time God tries to help people, it just turns into a metaphor about bowling.
Yeah.
He's like, listen.
He's so smarmy. Like I love how he's just gonna like, this one's out of date. That's mine.
Yeah, he's
You're gonna fit it. It's mine.
He's like, I'm really gonna miss your store. I found great expired food there.
Yeah.
The most backhanded compliment.
Now he tells his matey like, you will die if you don't go and get that box lunch and chase and run out of the store with it and bring
I know,
it.
it's because all of his buddies like have such faith in him. He's just like, run or you'll die. Like, oh god, oh no.
And how he wards off those kids that like beating up his mate.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, so that's another like the prophecy thing. Like he's somebody who has like some kind of like power.
But he's like an actual prophet, whereas Kenji's like, I wrote some stuff in a notebook once. Like, that doesn't count,
like
except in this specific situation.
Yeah, like what I mean was like, I think it has to be more like mind powers, like there's people who have like mind powers happening around and stuff.
Yeah.
So with the introduction of him, because I love his character and the fact that he's introduced as a homeless man who has all of these like followers that want to give him food, and he's like, stop calling me God. Like, just stop.
It's weird,
stop.
guys. I just have dreams and I know stuff.
He still plays like the role that he has to. Like, he still makes sure when he sees things, he makes sure to like have what is supposed to happen in terms of saving the world. He doesn't just see it and then do like nothing. Even though it seems like he's completely like hands-off, apathetic, he still goes and like he does as little minimum as possible, but he's still doing stuff to keep like the flow going.
Mm-hmm.
But what if God is friend?
Oh
Yuna, no.
So he's one of the kids? No!
No!
How did he age so quickly?
He aged so fast.
He
I
did
guess,
not age
technically, I
gracefully.
mean, God would know all of this stuff because God knows everything.
Yeah, maybe that's why he wore the mask. He was always a really little man
Yeah.
the whole time. He was never a child.
Cracked the code.
There we go. Urasawa, we're on to you.
We know. Think you can... You guys, we should write a mystery manga.
Yeah, we should. And Donkey will be the protagonist.
Donkey is our protagonist.
Oh, Donkey!
No.
I'm trying to think.
I'm sad again.
I know. We're coming up on an hour here, so there's so much that I want to talk about here. Okay, I'm gonna ask a last question, and then if anybody has anything else they want to bring up, because we need to talk about art too.
Yes.
Anything else anybody wants to bring up? My question is, what was your favorite moment in the manga?
It was in chapter 32 where we saw the hand of the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, oh, that's clever. Oh, I like
Yeah.
it.
Mine was Kenji rocking out on the guitar.
I was thinking that might be it, yeah.
Yeah. I love that one.
Yeah, I have to concur with that. I don't know, just seeing that was just such a change, a moment that illustrated change in Kenji. So yeah, I have to agree with that.
20th century Beck.
20th century.
I love Beck, so it's okay.
I'm into it.
Done.
Yeah, I think that would be a moment for me too. I can't think of another one that had like as much of an impact as that one did, to me at least.
I think the other one that would be up there with me was also finding out that Kenji is the one who wrote the plan.
Yeah, that he's like the prophet. Yeah, that was so good
Finding
too.
that out and like just how like crazy that is, how that's unraveling.
Yeah.
Like I really like that element that added to the story as well. Okay, let's talk about art. Guys' thoughts on art.
I really liked it. It looks really nice. I like the designs and how it played off of the backgrounds. I thought everything was really well done and pretty clean.
What I absolutely adore about Urasawa's art style is that he knows how to make things seem sort of not too anime, like too a little down to earth enough for it to feel realistic, but also he's really good at making certain characters' designs feel like gruesome and evil and horrible.
Yeah.
To the point where it's very memorable and it's very clear what that character's role is by their appearance, but it never takes it too far. It always remains to the point where you're not getting anything too out there. So you get all these kind of gruesome features and sort of like horrible aspects to someone's visuals, which then plays into their character. But nothing will ever basically go, okay, this feels a bit weird, when everyone else's designs are really kind of normal and human.
Yeah. He really loves using the evil silhouette. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole beginning of both Monster and this one, like when you see the bad guy, it's a silhouette for the first like entire
Something you didn't
beginning.
mention before, actually, just how closely like Friend and Johan are in terms of how they're presented early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just a case of they're just off in the back, like this ominous figure,
Yeah.
and
Pulling
still
the
playing
puppet
back in.
strings.
Yeah, pretty much.
For me, like, and I remember this from when I first read Monster too. The art style isn't one that I'm immediately drawn to, but it grows on me really quickly.
Yeah.
So like even when I started reading 20th Century Boys, I was like, oh, I recognize this art style, and I looked at the mangaka and I was like, oh, that's right, I know who this is. I was reading it, and it for some reason it feels so plain to me at first, but the way that everybody is drawn in a way where you see individual elements so easily, and it's always pretty small, you know. It doesn't like make everybody into caricatures,
Yeah.
but you know who everybody is and you remember what everybody looks like, and I respect that so much.
It's just
It's
with
so nicely done.
with how down to earth a majority of the designs are, it's that allows many of the other designs to really stand out.
Totally.
Like when you see freaking like what's his face as like a Tibetan monk randomly, and it's just
Yeah.
like okay,
Asha.
and yeah, and then when we go and see Shogun, it's like he looks completely different to everyone else, proper standing out, and it's just like these sort of characters then sort of when they're just first introduced, it just makes them all the more memorable, so that when they come back, because a lot of the main characters do have the more down to earth and simple designs, but you're not going to forget about them because they're the main characters. But when sort of characters that don't get much time on the page show up, a lot of them have a lot more recognizable features, so that when they do show up again, you're like, okay, it's that guy. Like, we don't refer to him as greasy, long-haired, bendy spoon man for nothing. Like, if he was just a dude,
Yeah.
like, we remember who he is.
Yeah. We definitely recognize his features and who he is and what role he is playing, even if we don't know his name or anything like that. But yeah, I agree with Dodger. Like, the art is always something where I start reading it and I'm like, oh, it's clean, but it's definitely nothing stand out. Like, I still wouldn't say it's any of my favorite manga art, but as I go in, I really appreciate the consistency in it because it is really solid art. Like, he understands the human anatomy, he understands perspectives, he understands backgrounds, and he understands, like, it may not be gorgeous, but it's really nice. Like, it is pleasant to look at, and it does what the story, it fits the tone of the story. It's not trying to distract from the strong points of the manga, which is like the writing and the characters in the story. And I do think that the character designs, like you were saying, Alan, like if the main characters are definitely more plain, and like there was some where I was like, is this the same person that was over there? Like, I got confused a little bit, but you get used to it and you understand that there's reasons why. There's a purpose behind everything that he does, and that includes the character designs and their art style. And so once you like see them more often, you get used and you understand, you know, who's who. And so he gives the distinct features to the people who need the distinct features. And I really enjoy that, and I have to like give props for that. So I wouldn't say it's like my favorite art, but I think it's really great art, and it's clean, and like I said, the perspectives are always really nice. His use of different panel perspectives is really great, and so I think it's like great art, especially for like it looks like it fits the age it was drawn in too, while also feeling not outdated, if that makes sense. So.
I mean, I would say that I would agree with what you're saying, Erin. Ultimately, the art is good, but it just doesn't live up to the rest of the manga, be it characters or the story itself. But I can still appreciate it for what it does bring, and just its attention to detail where it's necessary. So, like that one panel where Kenji is rocking out is really well done. So,
he puts emphasis on what he needs to.
Exactly.
I think a big part of what you're saying there, Lou, is just a case of his art is there to take a back seat more than anything else. It's there to be not too distracting, so that you can focus on everything else. Yeah. Which I think is probably partially the reason why you're not too big on it generally.
Yeah. So. So let's wrap up and give our final thoughts and ratings. Whee! Does anybody want to go first? I'm trying to figure out what I want to rate it, so I don't know.
I already spoiled mine saying that it was my second favorite
manga. You go first. You
Yeah.
hit it, Lou. You're spoiled, so you go first.
So far, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, and I'm expecting it to stay at that level, if not go higher.
Yeah.
Because
11 out of 10.
Yeah. Fuck it.
A 20 out of 10.
20 out of 10.
It's very much
go big or
possible.
go home, right?
I believe, and if I believe it can happen.
I believe in the power
I believe
of
in friend. I believe in friend.
No.
No, wait, no, Lou.
No.
Lou, no.
Lou's next MangaPod, Lou's gonna have it tattooed on his forehead. We're like,
I'm
Lou.
just gonna have like a hand right there.
And it's just like, hey, do you want to buy some of this powder? It totally won't make all your blood fall out.
Yeah.
No, Lou, what have you done?
Okay, I can go. I would give it a 9 out of 10. I thought that it was really, really good. I'm super, super intrigued by the story. I want to know more, like, really badly. I'm completely sucked in. And I think that the way that characters are developed and the way that the story has been developed and progressing is so good. Just absolutely so well done. So yeah, I'm excited for us to read more. I hope we read more on MangaPod.
Awesome. I am going to give it a 9.23. That's my rating. Because I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite manga, but I am incredibly interested in the story, the characters, the plot, and how the mystery is unraveling. And I think it's some of the best writing that I've seen in a manga, especially that we've read on MangaPod. Like, I think it's definitely, like, up there for some of the best storytelling and the best writing. And just the way that all of the stuff is unraveling, and that I can't believe we've only read 32 chapters and so much has happened and there's so much to come. And so I think that's just, like, really neat, and it's really cool to see that kind of writing happening in a like adult setting as well. And so yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. The art isn't my favorite, but I think it's brilliant when it needs to be, and it's also brilliant in its simplicity. So I think it's an incredibly strong manga, and definitely needs to be up there, highly rated.
Yeah.
So, building on what I said before, the fact that it gives you the ending at the start was such an interesting way of presenting things, and from there on, some of the key mysteries are solved for you. But with that said, the density and quality of the content that you're given thereafter kind of threw me for one, because whilst I was expecting something solid and had expectations based on Monster, I wasn't sure what direction this was going to go in. And even though a lot of the things that we're expecting to happen have already been cleared up, the fact that I was able to remain completely and utterly gripped on everything that was going on in spite of that was thoroughly impressive. I can't really typically give ratings on things that aren't finished, because I like to...
That's fair.
Yeah,
fair.
I like to have sort of complete things, because something can then just like fall off at the end. But from what we've got so far, it's a 10 where we are now.
Awesome. Sweet. So you got a 9.23, a 9, and 2 10s. You should definitely be checking it out if you have not read it yet. FYI.
Even though you've just been spoiled of chapters 1 to 32, you big dummies. You should have left earlier.
Yes, stoops.
Oh, man.
Yes, stoops. It's their own fault. They're fools. They're fools. I am going to read. That wraps up our discussion on 20th Century Boys for this week. I'm going to go ahead and read the summary for the manga that we are reading next week, and y'all in chat get to guess what it is, and it's real long, so that's nice. And there's going to be lots of blanks so that I don't give away what we're reading. So, Blank is a reformed biker gang leader who has his sights set on an honorable new ambition to become the world's blank blank for the purpose of meeting sexy high school girls. Okay, so he's mostly reformed. However, strict administrators and a class of ruthless delinquents stand between Blank and his goal, and they will use any means, however illegal or low, to drive the new Blank away. Perfect, because Blank's methods won't be found in any teaching manual. He cares about the difference between legal and illegal activities about as much as he cares for the age difference between himself and a high school girl. Oh boy. So get ready for math that doesn't add up. This manga was meant for me. Language you'd be slapped for using, and biology that would make a grown man blush. Unless, of course, you're the blank blank blank.
Panda Frosting got it.
Frosting got it.
Perfect.
Great
The
teacher
blank,
Onizuka.
blank blank blank. Or GTO. Yes. Great teacher Onizuka is what we are reading next week. We are reading volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 23 with the lovely Talia. Yay. So that should be a lot of fun. Apparently, I haven't actually I don't think I've seen that anime either.
I've never seen the anime, but I've watched.
It's one of my
watched the
favorites.
J-dramas of it. Is that weird? I've never seen anything other than the J-dramas.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if I need
is one of my all-time favorites.
I've watched like the first 25 or so episodes of the anime. It is bloody good.
I need to watch
It's got a really sort of unique and interesting sense of humor.
Ooh, perfect. Awesome. Oh, somebody in chat asked if we've read One Punch Man. Yes, we have.
Yeah, we have.
Mm-hmm. So good.
I haven't read it yet.
No.
What?
What?
Whoa.
What?
I'm looking forward to catching up.
Yes.
Hint,
Yeah.
let's put it on the next schedule. Hint.
I don't
It'll be
know.
done in like
I
5
don't know
seconds.
if there's enough chapters out for us to put it on the
Let's
next
do it anyway.
schedule. Let's do it anyway.
No, man, you should do an episode on the chapters that haven't been drawn properly yet.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god, yes. We're
just
like,
gonna
man, the art really
further in the
dropped
web-
off.
Yeah.
What happened?
God, it started off so strong.
Let's wrap up and give our shouts out real quick. Shouts outs or
Shouts
stuff.
out.
Or shouts
Shouts
out.
out, everybody.
I am Erin of HappiLeeErin. I have a YouTube channel called HappiLeeErin. I do anime reviews and anime first impressions, as well as seasonal previews and all the other manga pods and mental health awareness and like anime kanji vlogs, which I just uploaded on Sunday. So if you are interested in any of that, you should go and check out my channel. I also have all sorts of social media. I'm HappiLeeErin all across the everything. I recently hit 15,000 followers on Twitter, which made me so excited. And then I realized that my first GIF after hitting 15,000 subscribers was a GIF of guy doing crack or doing like marijuana. I was like, perfect.
Good
And
job,
it's like,
Aaron.
he has like sunglasses on, he's smoking like a doobie, and it says swag, and Snoop is dancing in the corner. It's such a
I
good
take it
GIF.
this was 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was for 420.
420,
It
yeah.
made me so happy. But yeah, so if you want to see gifs of anime characters smoking marijuana, come follow me on Twitter.
The Mary Jane.
The Mary Jane. That's me.
Mary Jizzle for shizzle.
Hi everybody, I'm Dodger. I have 2 YouTube channels, youtube.com/pressstart-to-continue, where I do gaming-y stuff, lots of butt-touching games if you're into that, and youtube.com/dexterity bonus, where coffee time is hopefully going to be coming back pretty soon. So if you're a coffee time fan,
Yeah.
that's the plan. On all the social medias, I'm at dexbonus, DEXBONUS, and if you like my live streams, I'm at twitch.tv/dexteritybonus as well. So come hang out and stuff.
Yay!
Yeah.
I'm posting everybody's links into the chat.
Aw.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. You're so
You're the
kind.
best.
My computer is slowly freezing. Oops.
Okay. While you doing that, I'm gonna go shout out my stuff.
Yes, please
If
do.
everybody's okay with that.
Please do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my name is Lou, and I'm from
Thank you.
Sitting by the Window Anime Reviews. I review anime occasionally. Most of the time, I'm just putting out random crap on my channel. But you should subscribe anyways, because I just did a review of Suritama. It's fucking good. That's a spoiler.
Yay! So
Yeah.
good.
That's the short version. You should go check out the long version. You can find me on Twitter at SBTW Anime Review. I also have a Hummingbird, Ask FM, Instagram. I don't know. I'll start making other stuff. But yeah, links in the comment if you're on Twitch, and on the description if you're on the YouTube or the VOD or whatever. And yeah, that's my stuff.
Perfect. Alan?
Hello.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Alan, also known as BakaShift. If you want to go subscribe to me, you will see anime reviews with lots of editing and no objectivity whatsoever, and just a guy getting really hype about Gundams all the time. And if you want to follow me on Twitter at BakaShift, then you can see tweets of a guy getting hype about Gundams all the time,
Perfect.
with occasional wit. And youtube.com/Oko Anime Club for my little side project anime streamy thing, which is like this but for anime. And if you want to see
Yeah.
Aaron talk about Kuroko
Which
for
y'all
4
always
hours,
do, because I don't do it
Yep.
enough. Yeah, I was on the two longest
Yep.
episodes because they
two,
were
2 hours each about Kuroko and Kuroko season 2, and soon Kuroko season 3.
Yes.
Once that's finished.
I'm so excited for that. I have not watched the recent episodes because I told David that I would wait. Like, we would wait to watch the most recent 4, this current arc. So I haven't watched any, and I'm just watching everybody's feels, and I'm like, ha! Now you know what happened to me 2 years ago.
I've managed to hold back and not started it yet. Myself
That's right, you're gonna marathon all of it, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, gonna get my buddies over. It's gonna be sick.
I'm only like 3 or 4 episodes in, so I'm just waiting because damn it, I can't go week to week.
Yeah,
So
that's what a lot of people. It's hard.
it's brutal,
It's hard.
and I'm not doing that to myself again. No, I give up.
Yes.
I tried, but no.
I tried so hard. I wanted to also shout out our subreddit for those of you who are wondering. If you would like to join us in the upcoming weeks about what we are reading, we have a subreddit, reddit.com/r/mangapod, where we post our all of the VODs as well as the schedule for the upcoming weeks. This one is currently all the way up to the end of June. We'll be putting together the one for the rest of the year here shortly, and that will be uploaded. And we also have recommendation thread going on there, so if there's any manga that we have not read and you would like to recommend to us, please don't recommend Tower of God. We know we are going to read more Tower of God very soon, sometime. I promise. We've read Tower of God. Read so much Tower of God. But go ahead and recommend whatever you want on that thread on there. We also have a Hummingbird group if you wanted to check that out. It's like hummingbird.com/forum/group/hummingbird MangaPod.
Yep.
I posted the link in the chat. If you are on YouTube, then you can go ahead and check it out in the description, or you can go to Hummingbird and type in MangaPod Book Club. But yeah, we would love to come and have you guys join us on either of those two forums to talk about MangaPod, any manga that you would like to discuss on there as well. So please do that. Thank you so much to Mr. BakaShift for joining us this week.
Yeah.
We're so happy
Thank
to
you
have
so much for having me on.
You
I
are
just want to say,
wonderful.
everyone going to recommend stuff needs to go and recommend Gundam The Origin. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because if we read it, you'll come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've even got the books now, because they're like crazy hardbacks and amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love hardback manga. There's like none of it, but I love it so much.
But look how big they are.
Oh, they're so cool.
Oh, what?
They're kind of amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. You were great. We loved having you. We can't wait for you to
Thank
come
you.
back.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you all to chat on both YouTube and Twitch for watching us live, and those of you who are watching the VOD of this, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining us for our discussion of 20th Century Boys. We'll be here same time, same place on twitch.tv/dexteritybonus, as well as youtube.com/HappiLeeErin, reading Great Teacher Onizuka, chapters 1 through 23, volumes 1 through 3, with special guest Talia. And we hope that you join us next week at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.